UKM's association with Harvard began very early, even in the late 1980s, and I'm sure a lot of our faculty from various faculties have also gone to Harvard in the various disciplines. But personally for me, in the late 80s, we went to Harvard to study the parallel track in medical education, a strategy that Harvard used to develop and introduce problem-based learning in its medical curriculum. Of course, now it's more parallel. And later, the UKM medical faculty sent, I think, 4 faculty members for clinical training and research in the field of otorhinolaryngology, ENT as we all know it. And the training gained by our UKM academics at Harvard Medical School has in part contributed to the highly successful UKM cochlear implants program, which was established in 1995, as well as the Center for Tissue Engineering, which was set up in 2001. You had a look at it in the video a while ago. And I hope that this new initiative, with this new initiative, there will be more opportunities for UKM and Harvard University to collaborate in areas such as challenges of building a nation, medical and health technology, renewable energy, climate change, nanotechnology and advanced materials, biodiversity and biotechnology, as well as sustainable development. Harvard University Asia Center's focus on international relations in Asia and comparative studies of Asian countries and regions can be complemented by studies conducted at UKM's Institute of the Malay World and Civilization. Again, it was featured in the book. The Institute of Malaysia and International Studies, or ICMAS, also featured, which looks at globalization issues, and the Institute for Occidental Studies, again, we saw it, and the Institute for West Asian Studies. It came after the video was made, so it's not in there. So ladies and gentlemen, with the signing of the MOU, UKM will host the Harvard EZRA VOGEL Malaysia lecture twice a year for a period of 5 years. And the next public lecture in 2010 will be part of UKM's 40th year celebration. And to commemorate the signing of the MOU, we are proud to present Professor Sugata Bose, Gardiner Professor of History at Harvard University, who will deliver the inaugural public lecture. Very interesting topic, the idea of Asia in modern history. Perhaps it will cover Europe. Before I end my speech, I would like to again thank our distinguished guests, Dr. Ho, Dr. Lam, and Professor Sugata Bose for being here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Prof. Nasri. Ladies and gentlemen, now we proceed with the MOU signing ceremony among UKM, the Harvard University Asia Center, and Lam King Chong Morning Sun Sheraton. I would like to call upon Yang Berbahagia Prof. Nasri, Dr. Sharifah Hafsah, Syed Hassan Shahabudin, Dr. Ho Ha Wong, and Dr. Lam King Chong to sign the MOU.
So I gave it only this one.
I have only
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Tan Sri, Dr. Ho, and Dr. Lam. With that, we have come to the end of the MOU signing ceremony. And now we move on to the next program, public lecture by Prof. Sugata Bose. Before that, I would like to once again invite Yang Berbahagia Prof. Tan Sri Dr. Sharifah Hafsah to welcome Prof. Sugata Bose and introduce him to the audience this afternoon.
It is now my honor to introduce the speaker for the inaugural Harvard EZRA VOGEL Malaysia-Singapore Initiative Public Lecture. I met him at lunch just a while ago. He flew in last night on a Malaysia Airlines flight, I guess. And I think he's rested. He's been in the region for a couple of days, so it's not jet lags. He was in Beijing a while ago. So I'm not making sure they know that if something happens, it is not because of jet lag. So Professor Sugata Bose is the Gardiner Professor of History at Harvard University, specializing in modern South Asian and Indian Ocean history, pioneering historical studies emphasizing the centrality of the Indian Ocean. Professor Bose was educated at Presidency College in Calcutta and obtained his PhD at the University of Cambridge. He was the recipient of the Guggenheim Fellowship in 1997. Professor Bose served as Director of Graduate Studies in History at Harvard and is the founding director of Harvard's South Asia Initiative. He has authored numerous scholarly articles and books on modern economics, social and political history. Some of the books, some of you may know already: Modern South Asia, History, Culture, Political Economy, Agrarian Bengal, Economy, Social Structure and Politics, South Asian World Capitalism, Peasant Labor and Colonial Capital in the New Cambridge History of India series, and so on. Too many for me to read out now. But his most recent book is the most important, and I have a copy already. It is called 100 Horizons, the Indian Ocean in the Age of Global Empire. And in it, he crosses area studies and disciplinary frontiers and bridges the domains of political economy and culture. And I hope we'll hear some of it this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to invite Professor Bose to deliver his lecture on the idea of Asia in modern history.
Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Sharifah, Dr. Lam, Dr. Ho, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Dr. Professor Gill, distinguished guests, faculty and students of UKM. It is a true delight for me to be able to give the first public lecture at UKM in honor of my very distinguished colleague, EZRA VOGEL. And it is a special pleasure, really, to have been a witness to the signing ceremony that has just taken place, and to have had the presence of Dr. Lam, who has helped forge this connection between Harvard University and this premier university in Malaysia. We hope to do much more at Harvard in order to build stronger ties with Asia and educational institutions in this continent. A world historical transformation is underway in the early 21st century as Asia recovers the global position it had lost in the late 18th century. Yet the idea of Asia and the spirit of Asian universalism were alive and articulated in a variety of registers during the period of European imperial domination. We tend to forget that. Just last weekend, Asian leaders were gathered in Thailand and were struggling to find a way forward in defining an Asian community. But this debate about what constitutes Asia has been taking place for a long time in modern history. One of the most creative exponents of an Asia sense was Rabindranath Tagore, who lived from 1861 to 1941 and who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913, the first Asian to win that particular prize. In fact, the first American to win the Nobel Prize for Literature was Sinclair Lewis, and that happened only in 1930. Today, I will explore with you the intellectual, cultural, and political conversations across Asia conducted by Tagore and his contemporaries. Such an exploration may give us fresh insights into the modern intellectual history of Asia, as well as theories of universalism, cosmopolitanism, and internationalism. Each country of Asia will solve its own historical problems according to its strength, nature, and need, Tagore said during a visit to Iran in 1932. But the lamp that they will each carry on their path to progress will converge to illuminate a common ray of knowledge. It is only when the light of the spirit glows that the bond of humanity becomes true. On February 10th, 1937, Tagore composed his poem on another continent, Africa, towards the end of his long and creative life in literature. Even more than the empathy for Africa's history of blood and tears, what marked the poem was a searing sarcasm directed at the false universalist claims of an unnamed Europe. Even as the barbaric greed of the civilized put on naked display their shameless inhumanity, church bells rang out in neighborhoods across the ocean in the name of a benign god. Children played in their mothers' laps, and poets sang paeans to beauty. The sanctimonious hypocrisy of the colonizer stood in stark opposition to the wretched abjection of the colonized. In my book, 100 Horizons, that was mentioned by the Vice-Chancellor, I had claimed that Tagore was an eloquent proponent of a universalist aspiration, albeit a universalism with a difference. This specific claim was part of a larger contention that modern history could be interpreted not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially, as an interplay of multiple and competing universalisms, not as a clash of